Hey everyone, it's Alex, and welcome to this Marvel Snap guide. We're going to be discussing the Spotlight caches for February and March in Marvel Snap. This video I think is designed to be helpful for players looking to conserve their resources and, spend their Spotlight caches and their tokens with a little bit more, of a plan. Because I think that at the end of the day, those resources are so incredibly valuable, so incredibly expensive and scarce that you want to know which weeks are worth rolling on and which weeks you want to skip on and etc. to conserve those resources. It's also worth noting that everyone's collection is unique, and so some weeks where you have none of the cards might be more particularly exciting to roll on, and other ones where might be more risky because you're just missing the new card, for instance. So we try to take that into account. Star ratings are basically based on like the current meta position and where they could potentially be in the future. A star is removed for a Series 4 card because it's just not as much value for your Spotlight key. And at the end of the day, it's all perspective. It's all my opinion, and what I would suggest you do is get a wider perspective by not only watching this video, but check out some other creators and some discussions on, Reddit, social media. Take a look at, what people are saying in the comments to get a bit of a more rounded idea, because at the end of the day, these resources are valuable, so I want you to make the best decision you can. Let's get started with week 1, which is the week that we're in right now as we record, February 4th to 11th with Joaquin, Torres, Falcon, Makkari, and Namora. Talking the Falcon here, I like the card. I think it's cool. It's an ongoing that provides on reveals for 1-cost cards to happen twice. It's like Wong for 1 cost. It's it's 1 power less expensive, 1 energy less expensive. Sorry, it's late already. But what I will say is that I like the card. My testing of the card was very positive. I thought that it was particularly good, and I know that some people were dismissing it as Wong for 1 cheaper, but when you're working with 1-costed cards, be able to play on turn 4 this and a 1-drop and actually have a bit of a combo piece happen is pretty good. Or set up Joaquin Falcon on turn 3 and then beast into it with a bunch of 1-drops. Like, it's pretty cool what you can do with the card, and I actually found it to be very powerful. The play lines were a lot of fun. Despite the fact that I'm not a bounce player, I saw the power. I was able to legitimately scale these 1-drops up, like Silver Sable, Rocket Raccoon. Nico was a huge winner with Falcon. So it was a great card. I liked it a lot. Very niche in its application, so if you don't play bounce, it's probably absolutely skippable. I don't even think it's making any decks outside of bounce at all. So if you don't like playing bounce, you can definitely skip it. With regards to Makkari and Namora, I actually like Makkari. It's not necessarily a popular card. I do think that it's underappreciated in Iron Patriot decks, because with Makkari, even if it's in your opening hand, it'll drop into a location, which allows you to play your Iron Patriot on top of Makkari and pretty much guarantee that you're going to get the reduction on the card that you've pulled from Iron Patriot. It's been seen in some Surfer decks. It's been seen in some like Sandman style decks. Like it does see play, just not a lot, as indicated by, well, the 1%. But I think it's probably one of the more underappreciated cards in Marvel Snap. And Namora, I actually like Namora. It's an archetype defining card. However, it's just not the right time for it, especially when you have like Junk and Mill and all this stuff happening. Namora feels like its time isn't here. And so as a result, it's hard to recommend pulling Namora, despite the fact that I do actually personally like the card. It's just the meta is not conducive to playing Namora whatsoever, and it almost feels like it never will be. So hey, that's something worth considering. Going to February 11th to 18th, we have Thaddeus, Thunderbolt, Ross, Nebula, and Blink. Ross, when your opponent ends a turn with unspent energy, draw a card with 10 or more power. I come away a little hesitant on this card. I'm going to say 1 to 2 stars here. The only reason why is because while I understand that draw is perhaps one of the most powerful effects in card games, with Marvel Snap, they tend to put like big barriers in front of it. I don't like the idea that your opponent controls whether or not Ross draws you cards. It's very niche in its application. It's obviously going to be going inserter decks, and their inserter decks, it's going to allow you to draw into your Skaar combo very effectively. And those types of decks can afford to play this at the 2-drop slot. Like, you're not really missing out on much by putting this in. However, if you think about what Searcher is doing right now, Ares was a big pump for it. It's doing great. Thunderbolt Ross will not pull Ares. However, it will pull Skaar. It'll pull other big chunks, right? Which is exactly what you want to do. And it's legitimately a win condition in that case. However, I don't see it making many other decks. And so, I don't know, I'm very hesitant. And then you have Nebula and Blink, who are both great cards, right? Nebula loses a star because she's a Series 4. She also loses a star because she's been in so many Spotlight caches already. And Blink is just not popular right now. I think people have just forgotten Blink exists. It's a good card, make no mistake. It's just not meta relevant right now. Nebula, I think, is being negatively impacted by the fact that you have Mill that's very popular, and those Mill decks are running Killmonger as part of a tech package. And so Nebulas are getting wasted nonstop. But regardless, I do think that this week is probably the skip of the month for sure. If you're trying to figure out like this month what's worth rolling on, I would definitely probably conserve resources if you can here. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is definitely not a FOMO day one pickup. Like I can't see that happening. I enjoy being wrong, but I'm pretty confident about this one. We go to February 18th to 25th, and this one here is like, this is a weird one, a very weird one. And I should almost put like a little third star in a bracket here because Redwing, I've been humming and hawing on. Redwing, the first time it moves, add a card from your hand to the old location. So the location where it was prior, you move and it pulls a card. It's potentially strong. Like obviously you look at something like an Infinite, pulling an Infinite's awesome, right? I mean, if you Heimdall this on turn 6 and then you pull something from your hand, like that's cool stuff, right? But also very draw dependent. It seems like it could potentially be clunky, and as a result, I'm a little hesitant. Like I can see the bull case on this where like it's a 4-star card and it absolutely slaps, but I can also see it's a 3/3 that just pulls garbage from your hand that you didn't want to play anyways, right? Like that's kind of unfortunate too, or it just might not quite perform, but the potential's there. And so with Redwing, this is definitely one of those cards which you're going to want to wait and see. You're not going to want to FOMO on it and roll all your spotlight keys on day one. But I do think that Redwing has potential, which is fascinating. So it was actually a broken ass 5-star card prior to the change, and then now it's a little weirder. It's a little weirder. Still a cool effect, but I don't know. I need to be sold on Redwing here. And so this one's one of the ones that definitely is like, I want to get my hands on before I make any judgments on it. With regards to Zemo and Loki, it's kind of interesting to think that both of these cards I think are worth having in your collection for sure. Zemo's making a legit comeback right now because Mill is being legitimately played a lot. 51% win rate, 7% popularity, which is basically the most that Zemo's ever had if you exclude his obvious like release window. But like Zemo's legit popular right now. He's seeing play and he's been pretty good. So Zemo's definitely worth having. And Loki's weird because like I find Loki very awkward. I don't want to say I wish Loki was what he was before. I don't like what he is now. He feels like he lost his identity. There's a good chance that you're going to want him in your collection because he's going to break some deck eventually. Like it's just what Loki does. Every time we say Loki's down, he breaks the meta, right? So his time will come again, I'm sure. But ultimately, like I don't like where Loki is right now, but I do think that these are two cards you want in your collection. So overall, a pretty decent Spotlight Cache week, right? A very decent Spotlight Cache week. If Redwing ends up being great, then it's an absolute hit of a week. So perhaps worth kind of keeping an eye on this one as things evolve over the course of the Redwing week. As we go to February 25th to March 4th, we have Diamondback, Nimrod, and Phoenix Force. This is a frustrating week because I think Diamondback's going to be good. However, obviously it's like, well, Luke Cage says hello, and that's kind of the problem. Luke Cage being this catch-all for a card like Diamondback is kind of sad, but I don't know what you do to fix it. They've obviously already nerfed Luke Cage. This Diamondback's going to feel awful on week one. You'll only be able to truly evaluate it like later, which sucks. It'll be outside the Spotlight Cache. Like you won't really know Diamondback's like meta impact until like 3 weeks after. It's like the Annihilus thing all over again. Annihilus comes out, everyone's countering it, and then Diamondback comes out, everyone's going to counter it, and then when everyone kind of is on to the new shiny thing, then Diamondback gets to shine, right? What kills this week, though, is Nimrod, Phoenix Force. Like, both Series 4 cards, both aren't seeing lots of play. I love both of these cards. However, how many times are we going to put Phoenix Force in the Spotlight Cache? How many times are we put Nimrod in these? Like, these are filler cards that have been in the Spotlight Caches so many damn times. I can't help but feel like it kind of brings the whole week down, despite the fact that I think that Diamondback is probably actually a really legit Affliction card. And now we're looking into the future at March, and we got to start it off by saying that these are data mined. Anything can change. The power of the cards can change. The text of the cards can change. I mean, the text has to on one of them. There's literally no text. We'll get to that momentarily. We're recording this prior to the character mastery patch, so there's literally 2 instances by which this stuff can change quite significantly. So do bear that in mind. But it's an exciting week, March 4th to 11th. 4-star week for me. You do have Eson here, who's a legendary. We're not quite sure what legendary means yet, but at the start of the game, if all your cards have different powers, give them +2 power. I think this is cracked. I think it's awesome. Obviously, it has some significant deck building considerations, but I feel like once the math is done and the testing is complete, there is going to be a shell that is going to be cracked with this card. It's just, I mean, I just wonder what legendary means and how that might impact the power level of the card, but on the surface, it looks awesome. Unlike Beta Ray Bill, who is a complete poo-poo card. It makes me so sad. Like, I love Beta Ray Bill. On the release, my Zaba Ray Bill deck was one of the absolute best in the game. I love the card, but at a 44% win rate, no popularity, it's not worth the spotlight key. I'm a Beta Ray Bill lover. I mean, there's literally a community member named Beta Ray Bill lover out there, and I know you're probably watching, and you're sad like I am. I want Beta Ray Bill to make a massive comeback. King Utri wasn't enough. We need to buff Beta Ray. Bring him back, damn it. Because Wiccan is a phenomenal card. Like this whole week is great because Wiccan is a phenomenal card. Nearly 5 stars, very meta relevant, very strong. Obviously the synergy with Quicksilver, Wiccan has single-handedly brought Quicksilver into the meta. Just a great card worth having in your collection. And there's always a deck in the top 10 that's using Wiccan. And there's always someone saying, well, how can I replace Wiccan in this shell? It's like, you can't. Like, Wiccan is the shell. And so definitely worth rolling for Wiccan if you don't have them already. This is a great week. And then you have March 11th to 18th, another great week, because you have Phastos, who I think is a very underappreciated card. It loses a star for being Series 4, but honestly, my play experience with Phastos, I think he's probably being slept on. I think it's pretty good. Skaar is phenomenal, especially with all the love Searchers getting, and with Thaddeus Ross coming out earlier, those decks might even get even more cracked. Ares helped him already. Thaddeus is supposed to help him as well. So if you don't have Skaar, here's another chance to get him. Then you have Starbrand. Starbrand is very, very interesting. At the start of the game, +2 power for each card in your deck with 10 or more power. That's a very easy condition to make. I don't want to say Surtur again, but honestly, Surtur again. Like, eventually we're going to have to make a big chonky boys deck that isn't just running Surtur all the time. But it seems like too easy, doesn't it? Like, it sounds kind of crazy, but like, Surtur's already an insane archetype, and we're getting a lot of tools for it. And this whole week is like Surtur week. I mean, not Phastos, I guess, but these cards are basically a Surtur shell. And then you have Thaddeus before. So I don't know. I think Starbrand looks great. I would almost expect these numbers to change a little bit because it is a particularly good card. The only problem is like, those decks don't necessarily need power, and I wonder if Starbrand ironically does not make those Surtur decks, because like, you might want a tech on 6. Like, it was why Alioth was so good in those decks, right? But now Alioth being a 6/9 doesn't give the Surtur +3. But like, Starbrand, like, do you really need power when you're playing all those chonks, right? So that's the one thing. Like, it might be just like, this is not necessary, right? That's the only thing that you need to consider. And then we go to March 18th to 25th. You have Firehair. I almost said Firehawk. Firehair, Cassandra Nova. It's so mean. You got Firehair, then Cassandra Nova, who's literally has no hair. And then you have Nico Minoru. I'm committed to saying Minoru properly. I've said Minoru. I've said everything else. It's Minoru, damn it. I've been called out every single week for saying Nico's name wrong, but not this time, damn it. There'll be still someone in the comments that says I said it wrong, but Nico Minoru, I love you. So, Firehair. You can move this once. When this moves, revive one of your destroyed cards here. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I'm trying to, like, when the day comes closer and like the meta starts to, like, you know, mature around the card's release, I get to pen and paper some ideas and kind of come up with some decks and some lines and stuff like that. And maybe I'll kind of get higher on Firehair. But as of right now, I'm a little hesitant. It's a 2/2, which is a really weak stat line. It's like Daredevil is a 2/3, right? And Daredevil sees no play, despite the fact of having one of the most powerful effects in the game. So 2/2 is a little weak, and reviving the card, you know, it does have a move built in, so it doesn't need like a Ghost Spider or anything like that. But I have some hesitations with Firehair, but regardless, interesting card nonetheless. Cassandra Nova was a prior free card. Most people should have it. It's a good card. It did get nerfed, but it is a good card worth having. But unfortunately, until Arishem and Thanos make a comeback, it is a little like, yeah, it's not quite as good as it used to be, especially with that nerf. But still, definitely worth having in your collection. Nico, one of my favorite cards in the game. The reason why there's not even a 5-star card here is because it's been in the Spotlight Caches so many damn times that I feel like you probably already have Nico. So I took a star or 2 off for like, come on, this has been the Spotlight Caches like 10 times. Cassandra lost a star for being free. So I mean, at the end of the day, you got 2 good cards here, and Firehair, I'm not sure about. We'll have to see how Firehair performs ultimately. And then we have Khonshu, which we have no information about as of recording, so hopefully a patch update will kind of give us a little more clarity on that. We have Scorn and Sersi. I like Scorn. Scorn is making a lot of decks, well, obviously with discard specifically. If pretty much every discard deck is running Scorn right now, which is kind of interesting. But Sersi, one of Cozy's favorite cards. I don't like Sersi all that much, but yeah, is it worth having? I don't know. I guess it depends how good Khonshu is. So we'll have to wait. We'll have to revisit this week when we have those kind of that better information there. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I truly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. As I suggested prior, definitely check out some other creators to see what they're thinking about these cards, because your resources are valuable. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on that next one.